Visible, right?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So let us start. So in last class, that means in last week Friday's class, so we basically discussed this how the band structure is forming after discussing bond model as well as band model of semiconductors. So then we discussed this how the band structure is forming and how the band structure is giving us um, how we can calculate the effective mass or the whether a particular mass will be like electron mass will be lighter or heavier, how the band structure will decide this. So following that, we have also seen this what is direct band gap semiconductor, what is indirect band gap semiconductor, which decides which material will be suitable for optoelectronic devices such as LED. Now, after that, we started this particular section where typically drift current we started, and we saw that uh, carrier concentration as well as the mobility are the intrinsic material parameter which will eventually decide the current within our devices, electronic devices, primarily MOSFET. So to quantify the current, or then once again this conductivity or resistivity of our material, we need to quantify first the number of carriers available. So how many electrons or how many holes are available, because we know that unlike metal, uh, in semiconductor, both electrons as well as holes are responsible for the current. So both the carriers are responsible for the current. So our first objective when we'll try to quantify this current or the conductivity or resistivity is to quantify the number of carriers. Then we'll try to understand this mobility or saturation velocity or the velocity, other terms, which will decide your current or current density. So now when calculating this number of carriers, we understood that two primary parameters, that is NE, that means the density of states, or the definition is the number of states available per unit energy per unit volume in semiconductor or any material. So that that along with the other parameter, that is Fermi function, which essentially says that whether those available states in the material will be filled up by the electrons or by carriers or not. So that is your Fermi function. So both your density of state as well as the Fermi function, that means both your number of states available per unit energy per unit volume, as well as whether those states will be filled up by the carriers or not. So these two factors will decide how many carriers you will get in your semiconductor or any material. So then we took this analogy with this open chairs available in a particular gallery, and whether on a particular day those chairs will be filled up by the spectators or viewers or not. Eventually, that will decide how many spectators will be there uh, uh, in the football ground or in a match. So we took that analogy. So today, we'll try to continue that quantification of conductivity, and we'll try to quantify this Fermi function as well as this density of state, all other parameters. Before we start this mention, or you need to consider this. So these are all very important concept. So first condition is the equilibrium condition. So in equilibrium, it says the definition wise, a condition of no external excitation except the temperature, and there will be no external excitation, or let's say if I take this particular this technical terms, that is energy perturbation. So in terms of the different external energy perturbation, there could be, you know, that temperature one factor, another factor may be optical energy or your light, or it may be magnetic field, or it may be mechanical field, mechanical force you are applying. So anything I'm missing. So temperature, optical, magnetic, obviously this electric field. So these are the typical external excitation or external perturbation or energy we can apply or we can consider when discussing this semiconductor, because eventually all these parameters, that external energy or these forces, will impact your device property or as well as your material or semiconductor property. So now when we'll consider equilibrium, so any semiconductor under equilibrium, so there could be this temperature. So this temperature will be there, but no other external energy will be present when we are considering any semiconductor under equilibrium. So obviously again, so there is no net motion, another factor. So we'll see this there will be, so whenever your semiconductor will be at certain temperature, there will be some motion, so that is random thermal motion, but there will be no net motion. So net, this word is particularly important. So there will be no net motion, because again you can understand from your just basic intuition that whenever there will be net motion of charges, there will be current. So if in so in equilibrium condition, then there will be no current. So typically the example of your this, just hold for a second. So yeah, so typically your semiconductor under at constant temperature in dark condition without any applied field, any applied magnetic, mechanical or electric field, that is considered as semiconductor under equilibrium. So remember, this temperature will be there. Due to this temperature, there could be carriers, because you know at 0 Kelvin there will be no carriers because all the covalent bonds are fixed, so there will be no carriers available. So, but in thermal equilibrium, there will be carriers, but there will be no other external energy or external force or field apart from temperature. Now, coming to this steady state, so your steady state is another condition. So here, obviously, this is a non-equilibrium condition where all the processes are constant, or they are balanced by the opposing forces. So, so this is called steady state. So what is the example of steady state condition of your semiconductor device? This is a sample with constant current. Remember, this constant we need to mention, a sample with the constant current. So then you will so your semiconductor will be under steady state. Once again, if we are shining our this, let's say, a semiconductor bar with a constant intensity of light, so then there will be constant generation of electron hole pairs, but they will be once again, those generated electron hole pairs will be balanced by the recombination. So the generation and recombination will be same. So that is why this all the processes are constant and are balanced by the opposing forces. So then this particular condition, you can say this steady state. Again, another condition you can guess from the steady state also, like there is something called a transient state. In transient condition, like whenever let's say you are turning your device on or off, so for a some time duration, so it will show this transient behavior. So this is another condition. So typically these are the two conditions we will consider in all the coming quantification or analysis of our devices or material. So now, so first concept. Now let us once again go back to our this objective to identify number of carriers. So your number of carriers is first we need to understand what is this Fermi function or Fermi-Dirac distribution. So Fermi-Dirac distribution. So you know that there are different. So this is how to. This is a statistics again. So again, our these electrons are fermions. That is why we need to consider this statistics or Fermi-Dirac statistics. And this Fermi-Dirac statistics says if E, or the probability of finding any electron at energy E or with energy E is equal to 1 upon 1 plus e to the power E minus EF divided by KT. Now, what is the like implication of this equation? What the information we can get from this equation? So this is once again I am telling. So this is the energy of finding any electron with energy E. Like sorry, this is the probability of finding any electron with energy E. So now this distribution will look like. So I think you have all seen this distribution of Fermi function with energy E. Let's say this is EF, so then E. So once again, mine is so this is the Fermi-Dirac distribution function. This is the energy EF, or also called Fermi energy. Okay, just before explaining this, few few associated things regarding this Fermi-Dirac, because these electrons are fermions. And why this is fermion? Because electrons are indistinguishable in nature, and then it obeys your Pauli's exclusion principle, as well as it shows wave particle or wave behavior. That is why this Fermi-Dirac distribution or Fermi-Dirac principle is used to calculate this fermions or electrons. Now you all know there are few other statistics, if you know, like Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics, which is typically used to quantify gas molecules, as well as there are other statistics that is called Bose-Einstein statistics, which is used to calculate boson or phonon. So boson again, they are also called like photon. So they are also called boson. So which obeys this Bose-Einstein statistics. So now since this wave, since this electron has this indistinguishability, it obeys Pauli's exclusion principle, as well as it has wave behavior. So we are using Fermi-Dirac statistics to calculate or quantify this. Now this Fermi-Dirac statistics, this AFE, has this dependence on with the energy. Now what so it will look like something like this. So where this is almost is half, as you know. So this is at some energy above 0 Kelvin. So this particular continuous line above T greater than 0 Kelvin. And so what does it say? So it says that at above 0 Kelvin, so the the probability of finding electron above Fermi level EF, so it will gradually decay. So it will decay. So that means more will be your energy. Then the probability of finding electron at a higher energy level will be less and less. And similarly, at T greater than 0 Kelvin, remember this is at T greater than 0 Kelvin, and this dotted, this dotted, this square, this is at 0 Kelvin. So this distribution at 0 Kelvin. So that means at 0 Kelvin, above Fermi level, there will be no electron. But all the electrons you will find below this Fermi level EF. Now, as we are getting like some electron above Fermi level EF, when your temperature greater than 0 Kelvin, so then similarly there will be no electron available, or when we are going below EF. So that is nothing but that is representation of the whole. So here, so you can see it is not exactly 1. So exactly this is a 1. So this is half. So it has, so this represent the whole concept. And another thing from this particular equation also you can understand, like if we consider that 0 Kelvin, this temperature T equals to 0, so then you will also find that it will be half. So this is the concept of Fermi level. And remember this concept, this Fermi concept, these are all useful when your semiconductor is under thermal equilibrium. So that is why I just explained those two concepts before explaining this. So now if we try to simplify this particular Fermi function, let's say when our E minus EA is greater than 3 kT. So when this exponential, this numerator is above 3 kT, so then we can actually approximate this Fermi function as e to the power minus E minus EA by kT. So this is approximation when we are having, like when your temperature, operating temperature, sorry, this is 3 kT. So again, this kT value, just if you at room temperature, this kT value is 26 millivolt. So then 3 into 26, that is around let's say 80 millivolt. So 80 millivolt is very small, like this energy you can guess. So that is why many times we can use this simplified Fermi function. So then if we further simplify this particular, we can see that it has this dependence. Just to, I'm writing it proportionality, so then E divided by kT. So this is a simplified. So now you can see from here to here we can simplify when we our this E minus EF greater than 3 kT. And this particular distribution is, if you know, this is the Boltzmann distribution. And you can see this is a lot simplified version than the actual Fermi function. So, and again, we'll see that for normal our semiconductor device behavior, we can simply start with this particular expression when calculating our carrier concentration. So that is why this simplification, if we do early, so it will be easier for us to derive all the equations, even for your this normal, terminal characteristics or current voltage relationship of our devices. So now, if we try to understand, let's say, another related concept. So we have this distribution. Now, if we just take a small part of this distribution, this is the Fermi distribution with the energy E. And now if we just try to calculate the total probability of finding electron above equals to E1. So what is the total probability? So because remember, this Fe is the probability of finding any electron at energy E. And now if we try to calculate or quantify the probability of finding finding electron above equals to E1. So that means all this position. So what is the total probability of finding any electron? So that means we only need to do this integration. So then we can find this area. So it will be something like your integration over E1 to positive infinity. So then this particular thing we can take. So it will be E minus EF by KT. Now this is DE. So then we can find the total probability of finding any electron above energy level E1. Now if we just once again this, so it will be something like, if we just once again consider probability of finding in an electron with E greater than energy level E1, it will be proportional to, if you are unable to follow me, so please let me know if you have any doubt, any question. So it will be proportional, that means this integration will be proportional to your e to the power. Now I need to mention this. Yes, simply we need to divide by KT, or it is also, we can write proportional to e to the power minus E1 by KT. Now the question is why I derived all this simple equation in that sense. So the thing is, now you know that in diode equation you have exponential term. So in other BJT equation also. So there are, so in bipolar devices you see that your current voltage relationship has this exponential term. And fundamentally this exponential term is coming all the way from this particular expression. So you can now see when calculating your this carrier concentration in, actually this exponential behavior is coming. So this exponential term will finally, you will see in your diode equation. So that is why this this simplification and this exponential dependence of your carriers or Fermi function on energy is important to understand. Just you should be able to visualize like how these all dependence everything is coming, because again initially also I mentioned. So here our objective will be to understand and quantify this all the device terminal characteristics. That means nothing but the current voltage relationship. So this is the your dependence of your Fermi function or your carrier concentration on your on this exponential term with energy. And now let me go to next slide. Now let me once again draw this band diagram. So if I once again draw this Fermi, your Fermi function, this is the energy, so it will again minus. This is your Fermi function. This is with the energy E. This is the Fe, and this is your energy band diagram. This is your EC. This is your Fe. Now you can understand this is your Fermi level EF. So now if we try to calculate carrier concentration N, so your N is basically, just to recall, see where is that. So your N is basically this one. So it is the multiple product of your Fermi function and the density of states and integrated over the conduction band, bottom of your conduction band to infinity. So this particular expression we'll also see in our approach. So we can simply write this carrier concentration. I'm still using this proportionality behavior, so it will be something like EF, so which we have already derived. So here in the previous case it was E1. So if we look at this, this is the E1. So if we just simply here we can put now EC. So EF minus EC divided by KT. And then here we can actually write this proportionality constant as NC. So NC equals to EF minus EC by KT. And similarly, so this NC or the proportionality constant is called effective density of states. Okay, so that is the density of state, but effective density of state and density of state, this concept is little different, but this the thing is same. So it is again the effective density of states is a simplified way of to show this actual density of state, because actual density of states has that dependence on energy. So anyway, for our this simplified analysis, we can consider this as a constant in C, which is called effective density of states. So for electron, or this is effective density of state in the conduction band, and that is why I mentioned this in C. And now similarly in case of holes in the valence band will be your effective density of state for your in the valence band phi and exponential. Now here it will be just little different because here this is your whole. So this is the total number of electrons available in the semiconductor, and this is the total number of holes available. So here I have again you can see I have simplified all these different expression so that we can easily come to this final form. Now in case of intrinsic semiconductor, that means pure semiconductor without doping and defect. So in case of intrinsic semiconductor, you have n equals to p, because again these are the concept we discussed in the last classes, that because in intrinsic semiconductor whenever we'll have electrons it will come with another hole, because there will be generation in pairs, like electron hole pairs will generate at the same time, unlike the doped semiconductor where we can consider the where we can control the electron and the hole separately. But in case of intrinsic semiconductor without doping, your total number of electrons will be equals to hole, and which we can write as Ni. Ni is the carrier concentration for intrinsic semiconductor, and the value of Ni for your silicon semiconductor is around 1.5 into 10 to the power. So this is, sometimes these values are like if possible it is better to remember, so then you will get a feel like how many carriers are there without any doping. It will help you to understand the concepts. So this is around 10 to the power 10 per centimeter cube at 300 Kelvin or room temperature in case of silicon. So now this Ni again, when we have not doped this your semiconductor, so then your Fermi level is called the intrinsic energy level or intrinsic Fermi level. So that is, now if we write, if we just put this Ei here in place of Ef, so it will be something like this. I think all this derivation you know, but let us at least revise. So here I mentioned EF because this is intrinsic semiconductor, and similarly we can write NV in terms of NV or hole concentration, which is your EV minus, sorry, here I need to mention this KT. If you find I am doing some mistake, please let me know. Sometime it may happen. So this is the form in case of intrinsic semiconductor. So now you can see that this equation 1, let's say this equation 2, and this equation 3, or so here we have this general term, and these two equation we can merge. So this 1 3 or 2 3 we can merge. So if we merge these two equation, so then we can actually avoid the use of this NC or NV, or this effective density of states, and then we can simply write these two equation in terms of intrinsic carrier concentration, because intrinsic carrier concentration is something which is easier to calculate or even characterize or quantify in your actual semiconductor, because this NC, NV, they are all concept, they are all theoretical concept. Now if we and this particular value, how many electrons are available or in a silicon semiconductor without doping, so this value we can easily calculate, or simply we can use some tool and get this carrier concentration. So that is why if we write these two equation in terms of Ni, it will be easier for us to once again calculate or understand these terminal characteristics. So now if we write this equation in terms of Ni, so it will look like something like this. Here we will have this exponential term, but this 2 will be different. This is Ni multiplied by exponential EF minus EI divided by KT, and similarly your total hole concentration will be Ni intrinsic carrier concentration into e to the power EI minus EF divided by KT. See now, can take different color. See this two equation. Now, if we just multiply this to N and P, what will we get? We'll only get Ni square. So this two exponential, this term will disappear because you can see this positive negative, so they will all disappear. So this is once again another important relation between your electron hole with the intrinsic carrier concentration. So this is also called sometimes mass action law. So if you have any question, you can just let me know. So now the next, okay, so now from this equation few more understanding. See, you can now see the number of electrons in the semiconductor depends on the difference between the EF and EI. So EI is actually your intrinsic semiconductor Fermi levels, which lies exactly at the middle of your band gap. So that means this is EI, and this is, as you know, that it is exactly Eg divided by 2. So now from this two equation, you can also understand, like if you have let's say doped your semiconductor N type, now where will be your Fermi level? So if it is an N type dope, like in silicon, let's say you have incorporated arsenic, so then your Fermi level will be above the EI. And now if we dope your silicon with some p-type material, let's say boron, gallium or aluminum, so then you can see like your Fermi level will be the below EI, because you can see like whenever this you have N-type semiconductor, so then EF minus EI will be positive if EF is above EI, so then you will have this quantity like electrons as a majority carrier, and at the same time you will have here negative value because here EF is greater than EI, so this P will be the minority carrier. And remember, this carriers has exponential dependence, so that means with the slight change in the energy level or with the slight change in the difference between Fermi level to intrinsic level, there will be a large change in the carrier concentration. Okay, so then another thing from here you can easily understand that the higher will be the difference between EF and the EI, so then higher will be the your electron concentration. That means the energy difference between Fermi level and the intrinsic level will be higher and higher, so your carrier concentration like or the majority carrier concentration will be higher and higher. So these are the few understanding of these two equations. So this is also called mass action laws. So okay, I think till now the concepts are clear. So now let us so because see we need to understand that your current density, if I write current density, is a function of your both carriers as well as saturation velocity or mobility. So now we could quantify the number of carriers available in the semiconductor. Now the next parameter we need to quantify to calculate the overall current is mobility or the this velocity of your carriers. Now in normal, let's say inside vacuum, your if we apply within a vacuum, if we consider electron and if we apply electric field, what will happen? So the electrons will be accelerated. But in semiconductor, this is little different. So that will try to understand. So I think let me go to next slide. So first, let us consider uh, motion of your electron without any electric field. Because remember, so this is again, I'll discuss all in detail, but quickly now I'll try to see if we can calculate the conductivity or quantify the conductivity. And remember, these are all what we are doing in a macroscopic way. In a microscopic way, we are trying to understand this conductivity or semiconductor or resistivity of your semiconductor. So now at any temperature, so so you know that your at 0 Kelvin you will have no carriers. Now when you will increase the temperature of your semiconductor or any material, so you will have carriers, some carriers due to due to breaking of your covalent bond. Now at the same time, those carriers will attain some motion. This is called random thermal motion. So and so this is the simple this is the kinetic energy. So it will get some kinetic energy due to your thermal external energy you are applying. So now if we try to quantify this energy without electric field, just simple the thermal kinetic energy of your carriers. So then from the equipartition theorem, so each degree of freedom of your of your electron will have energy of half kT. That means kT by 2. So this is from equipartition theorem, and energy for each degree of freedom. In energy for each degree of freedom. So now how many degrees of freedom are there for your semiconductor? Because your semiconductor can travel around three direction, x, y, z. So then it could have total kinetic energy 3 kT by 2. Now this 3 kT by 2, this energy is equal to the kinetic energy. Now you know this, there is something called effective mass of your electron, and let us consider the mean average velocity of your particle is v. So this will be the equation. Now what is the velocity, like what do you think, like a semiconductor or electron in semiconductor just at some room temperature or some temperature, what will be the motion, like whether this speed is very high or whether this is very low. So if you can quantify, or if you can just simply use this equation, you can easily quantify. So let us try to do that. So your v square will be something like 3kt, because here all the other these are all constant, and so 3kt by m star. Again, your k is 1.38, that Planck's, no, this is a Boltzmann, this constant. This is minus 10 to the power minus 27 joule per Kelvin. And your effective mass typically in electron is 1/4. That means m star is equals to 0.25 of free electron mass. So then if we quantify these, and if you will see your velocity, this is called random thermal velocity, which is equal to 10 to the power 5 meter per second. And these are all, again, this T we have considered 300 Kelvin. So this is at 300 Kelvin. So now see this figure. This is important. Sometime, and that is why these values are very important. So this is very fast, 10 to the power 5 meter per second. This all the this electrons will have this velocity without any electric field. This is purely the velocity this energy, these particles or these carriers are getting due to the thermal energy. So this is again very high velocity. You can see now. So why this is so large in value? Again, this is random velocity. Random means this will not lead to any net directional movement of your carriers. That means you will not get any current due to this so high velocity of carriers. So so your current, you will not get current due to this velocity of your carriers. These are all random thermal motion. So that is why called random. It will not lead to any current, or obviously this will not lead to any as such characteristics like of your devices. So it has this random motion. So it will be okay. Let me go to next slide. So this is exactly random. There is no direction. So that is why so this thermal motion is random motion. Now with the application of electric field, let's say if we apply the electric field in this direction, so since this is a electron we are considering, so it will have this let's say this movement. So your electron, this random thermal like the electrons with this random thermal motion will move towards this due to this applied electric field. Okay, so this dotted line represents the movement of your electrons after applying this electric field. Okay, so now this is let's say it will have some velocity after application of your electric field del V. So now if we try to understand like what will be the picture after applying your electric field, see, simply we can use your Newton's second law. That means F is equals to dp dt, which now here the force is the basically coming from the electric field, which is QE. Now this thing we can write in terms of del. Now this is further we can write in terms of m star del V. divided by tau c. What is this tau c? Tau c is typically called mean free time. Mean free time means, okay, so here, so when your electron is generated here, so it will travel this path, and once again it will collide here. So it will, after collision, it will change its direction. Once again it will collide here. So the time between this point to another point, so generation to this collision, so this is the mean free time, the time between these collisions. So this is called tau c, or mean free time, and this is also called mean free path. So then this is of the order of some picosecond. That means you can understand, like, there are a lot of collision within the semiconductor due to this thermal energy. So this is typically called tau c. And now if we further simplify this equation, it will be something like this. What is that? QE tau c by m star. So now this del v, so this is the velocity of this del v, is the velocity after applying this electric field. Okay, so this dotted line represents this path of your electron after applying electric field. So now here this del v was 0, and then here it is getting this del v amount of velocity. So the average velocity, if we want to consider, so this average velocity, let's say it is called drift velocity, so Vd we can write half, like here del v equals to this, so now let me multiply half, then q tau c divided by m star. This is the electric field. Now this particular expression has some meaning. So this is called drift velocity. This drift velocity is coming due to the electric field. Remember, this is not the thermal random thermal motion, and this velocity is proportional to your electric field, and this proportionality constant is called nothing but the mobility. Okay, so this expression is the mobility. And now, okay, last otherwise okay, I'll stop here. I'll stop here. I'll not okay. Okay, so now you can next day we'll try to complete this quantification of conductivity, and we'll also see that when we have current in the, like when you have current in metal or semiconductor, then what is the speed of your semiconductor, like, sorry, what is the speed of your electron. So so we'll try to quantify. So previously we quantified that random motion. So that random motion we quantified, and it came of the order of 10 to the power 5 meter per second at 300 Kelvin, right? Now we'll try to understand or quantify what is the velocity, this drift velocity. This is random. This velocity will not lead to any actual current. So now when we'll apply electric field, so then this drift velocity is coming, and whether this drift velocity value is very large, very small, or average, that we need to try, we'll try to understand. Now here I'll like, you can also guess, like next class, for like you at your home, you can try to understand like whether it is large or small, and if it is very large, or if the value of this is very small, why this is so, obviously. So because why this value is so large, if we go back to this previous this derivation, because of this guy mainly, this effective mass, because okay, this mass value is 10 to the power, minus 31 free, this free electron mass. I think it is 9 point something into 10 to the power minus 31 kg, the free electron mass. So since this free electron mass is so low, that is why we are getting so high velocity. Like if we go by simple this formula, simply this kinetic energy, this formula. Now the next question or next our curiosity is this: what about this drift velocity? Because this drift velocity will give us the current. Remember. So then whether this value is very large or small or average, you can just think over this, and then in the next class obviously we'll derive. So that's it, I'll stop here, and now let me know if you have any question from today's class, even last classes. Thank you. Any doubts?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can you please explain the graph again of FE
FE. Okay.
in the
Okay.
previous? Yes, sir. This one on the left-hand side.
This. Okay. So. Okay. This one.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm not able to understand this 0 Kelvin and T greater than 0 Kelvin part.
Okay. 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 Fine. So that means how this equation is represented by this graph, right? And why 0 Kelvin? So how should I start? So at this value, at equals to EF value, if you just simply mention equals to EF, so then from here you can guess like 1, this expression will be 1, so then 1 upon 1 plus 1 half. So it will go through this value half at it, this function. If we want to plot, so then this it will go to this at equals to EF, it will have value of half. That means the probability of finding any electron at energy Fe will be half. Now the question is at 0 Kelvin what will happen? Okay. So now from this simple this expression once again, let's say our E is greater than EF. Okay, first consider that okay, first consider E equals to greater than EF. E equals to greater than EF, that means this region. Here our E equals to greater than EF, right? So that means this quantity is a positive quantity, and overall this exponential, this value, it has a positive quantity. So then now if it is in this exponential term, so at 0 Kelvin, so this is e to the power positive infinity. So that means if we write 1 upon 1 plus e to the power this positive, right? So then this will be once again infinite, and then overall you will have 0. So then this will be 1 upon this infinite, so this will be 0, right? So then above equals to EF, that means at this the energy level here at 0 Kelvin, you will not be able to find any electron at 0 Kelvin. So you will not be, so this this means this at 0 Kelvin. So if we want to find out any electron with energy greater than EF at 0 Kelvin, we will not be able to find, we will not be able to get any electron. But at the same time, when our this energy is less than EF, what is happening? Now, if our energy this is less than EF, that means this exponential, this term will be negative. So then if we just write in that case 1 plus, so negative. So this kind of, because this term, this here our now E minus EF, because this E is smaller, this we are now here, E is smaller than EF. So then it will be kind of this. So then we'll have, now you can guess 1 upon infinite, so 0. So now it is 1. So that is why when our when we'll try to find out any electron with energy equal E less than EF at 0 Kelvin, so then it will be 1, exactly 1. So we'll get the electron. That means, so this is the dependence at 0 Kelvin. Now if we keep on increasing this temperature, because this is we have considered these values are coming at temperature above 0 Kelvin, so then it will actually take this value. So if we take another temperature, higher temperature, let's say this is at T equals to, this is at T1, and if we try to understand this distribution at T2, so which will be T2, sorry, my this handwriting. So at larger temperature, this distribution will slowly, here it will move up, here it will move down, because remember, just now if we consider the semiconductor, if we, because anyway, in next class we'll see, this extension in this above equals to EF will decide the number of electrons, and this 1 minus EF, that means this gap, or this gap will decide the number of holes in the valence band. So again, now from your temperature this point of view also we'll see, like we know that at higher temperature we will have more carriers. So then you will have like, that is why this distribution is changing. So this is the concept. I think to some extent, is it clear?
Yes, sir, it is clear. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any more doubts from anyone else? Okay. If there are no more doubts, intrinsic Fermi level, EI. Okay. What is EI? Okay. Okay. Then we are stopping here. Thank you all once again. And we'll meet on Thursday from 2 to 3. Thank you. Arpit, is this fine? Any comment from your side?
No, sir. Okay.
Bye.